Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from many and all corners of the universe. We find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest on this episode is a massive Bat fan and an indie author extraordinaire. Please welcome Dr. Richard A. Olson to the stage. Richard, how are you today, good sir?
It's great to be here, and it's a wonderful bat day.
Absolutely, it absolutely is. Now, if you have any questions for Dr. Richard A. Olson during the course of this episode, let us know in those comments, let us know in the chat, and do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you're watching us live or on the replay, we thank you so much for being with us. With that portion of the show out of the way, Richard, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
That's a great question. Edgar Rice Burroughs would have to jump to the top pretty fast. 10 or 12 years old, reading Tarzan and John Carter and Mars was pretty influential. Then for the new people, they might not know who Doc Savage was. That was coming in a reprint when I was a kid. So all the 30s pulp magazines are being reprinted. And I guess, I don't know if you say Batman Comics is a specific writer, but Edgar Rice Burroughs and Lester Dent did Doc Savage, and Norval Page did the Spider. And then as far as fictionary detectives, Raymond Chandler, who did Philip Marlowe, and Mickey Spillane, who did Mike Hammer. And then there's the Sam Spade too. So I basically grew up on, heroes and detectives, but these were heroes that didn't have superpowers to save their butts. They had to deduce things, fight things. Sometimes they lost. So more of a realistic type hero. That's how I base my characters on.
Oh, I see. So Sam Spade, does that mean you like Maltese Falcon?
Oh, yeah. In the Thin Man series, there's 6 Thin Man movies. Maltese Falcon, that's got to be one of the top film noir ever. Easily.
Mm-hmm. What is it? It's the stuff that dreams are made of. Oh, miss you, Bogey. We miss you, man. Great actor, great filmography, and a great film within itself. If you haven't seen The Maltese Falcon, please check it out when you have a chance on a streaming service, or in some cases, physical media. I got it on Blu-ray and DVD, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm sorry?
As Peter Lorre would say, it's very good.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that statement there. No question about it. What made you decide to become an indie writer?
Well, it's a different world now, and the mid-grade writers are mostly gone. So you got the ginormous people, Stephen King or Patterson or Dean Koontz, and these books just sell themselves. They don't have to be sold. So it's a lot harder to break into the new world of writing. So a lot of people are using more of an indies type style of writing. And that gets you out there. Then it's kind of up to marketing and word of mouth and growing and get your talent shown.
Oh, I see. What would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
Well, there's an incredible self-pleasure. I like writing because it's exercising my brain and exercising my mind. And my creative skills have always been imaginative, I guess would be a nice word. And I mean this carefully, but I guess you kind of get to play like God a little bit. You're creating your own universe, you're creating your own characters, their own hardships, their own victories. And that's satisfying. And I guess back in college, I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I was told I was a very wicked dungeon master. So I was creating temples of Set and all kinds of wild stuff back then, which are really stories themselves. It's just the characters, act differently.
Oh, okay. All right. I see. You still play D&D today, or is that kind of a phase that just went away?
Time, being a dad, being a grandpa.
Very busy.
It was a nice fad, and back then we really played it with characters, and it kind of became more of a computer type game. You know, when you sat around a room, you just honestly drank and had fun and interacted and kind of went along, and then it became more computer-like, and that kind of took away the fun for me.
No. Okay. I can see that. I can see that. Let's see. Dawn Duelis is here with us. She says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm reading Peoria Nights now. Opa. Oh my gosh.
Excellent. What story are you in?
Mm-hmm. That's another good question. So feel free to let us know. Dawn Duelis, good to see you, Dawn. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods, superstar. Good to see you. I haven't seen her in a while. Goodness gracious. On the flip side of the coin, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Well, time is a big challenge, and discipline. My joke is because my day jobs, I'm a doctor, and then I have a family. So my joke is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. So if you can write 2 pages most days, that's suddenly 700 pages, several books a year. But I think it's a true discipline of trying to stick to it. So many people start books and they stop and they don't complete books. So I think time and discipline are two extreme factors of that.
Ah, there you go. There you go. And more people have entered the chat. Carl, good to see you. Carl Witzman says, hello, another writer who has worked in Peoria at times.
Well, awesome. Nice to meet you too. Peoria's had a plethora of writers, Phil Jose Farmer. I mean, there's all kinds of writers from Peoria. So it's a mecca. So I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely. And then Dawn Duelis answers your question from earlier. She says, I've only read the chapter that's right after Opa. Frowny face emoji, she says.
Well, I don't know about plot spoilers. The fun thing about Peoria Nights, and Bonaventure Press actually came up with that word because Peoria is a famous town. It was a whiskey capital of the world before Prohibition.
Oh.
There's literally 100 distilleries and breweries. In fact, half of all the whiskey made in the United States was from Peoria. And that gives a good segue for stories, and burlesque and vaudeville capital of the world too. And there's also a castle on a drive over the river, and I met the owner of the castle, and he gave me permission to use the castle as a setting for my third story, which is on the cover of the book in the background. So a lot of things just kind of set up right here, ready to go. Nobody's written about 1930s Peoria fiction.
Well, you know what they say, first time for everything. Carl Witzman says, Brian K. Morris also recommended your work in his newsletter this month. Yes, we were actually talking about that in the green room before we got started with this show.
Yep, a shout out to Brian K. Morris. He's Indiana, and I'm in Illinois, and so we see each other at the book conventions, the Peoria cons, and so forth. And my wife says I'm not boring, but I think Brian out characters me. He's a pretty fun guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, he's one of the few people in the world who's willing to wear a fez. So
I got to hand it to him.
Yeah, and sticks out like a sore thumb. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because he's a Whovian too. And then Carl says, hey, Ryan, good to see you. Yes, Carl, it's good to see you too, brother. And it's been far too long. I hope everything is well in your neck of the woods. Please give my best to you and your family. And then Don Duelis goes on to say, my SO was an engineer at the pier for 9 years, obviously now and not then, but it's kind of fun to read and see the businesses featured in those stories.
Well, I painstakingly check out the history. There's buildings that have been burned down, hotels that have been taken down, theaters that have been taken down in Peoria, and they're just memories. The Pierre Marquette was a world-class hotel built in the 1920s, and I frequently use it in stories. The next book will have a huge jade emerald heist at the Pierre Marquette, and I just completed that story. And there's just a huge plethora of things here. Peoria was one of the leading theater vaudeville places in the world. It had over 40 theaters in the 20s and 30s, and that's as many as New York City had. So literally population of 150,000 people at over 40 theaters. So it's just a plethora of stories just to create and people remember. And then the locals, of course, love it because I'm using historical places for the fictional events.
Oh my goodness. When you say the word heist, you immediately got me intrigued. All right, let's see how this heist is going to be pulled off potentially. Or is there going to be some wrinkles in this heist? We don't know yet. The story's not out, and I don't want to hear spoilers. I want to go in cold as humanly possible. Carl Witzman goes on to say, we must have missed you at some of these Peoria book events, but maybe we'll see you next time.
Well, I guess we could try to Facebook each other. My author page is Dr. Richard A. Olson, author.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a Rick Olson personal Facebook page, and I would love to meet you and work together. And I've never thought about collaborating on a story locally, but that could be a brand new idea.
That could be fun. And Carl Witzman does have a number of, he has good years of experience and ideas, and I'm sure he's got some stories he'd like to share and publish, put together, and all that jazz. Carl, we wish you the best, brother. Trust me. Dawn says, I can very much tell that you studied the history of the city, says Dawn.
Well, this is an accidental byline. I'm a man of many hats. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, acupuncturist, martial artist, professional rock drummer, all kinds of fun stuff. But now I'm also the local historian because I've studied so much in hundreds of hours. I even speak at Bradley University. I now give historical speeches on the 20s and 30s in Central Illinois and Southern Illinois. And there's the Shelton gang, there's the Burger gang, and these guys are so tough, Capone left them alone. I mean, we're talking gangs of 100 people. They made tanks out of trucks. They did aerial bombings on each other. We're talking huge adventure stuff in the 20s and 30s, and that's part of the playground too, just using fictional characters, of course, so I don't get whacked.
Right. Absolutely. Got to separate one from the other. Once again, we are here with the incredible Dr. Richard A. Olson, indie author, here on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you're watching us live or on the replay, we thank you for being with us. If you have any questions for Dr. Richard A. Olson, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And thank you to all of you who have chimed in and shared some things or questions or thoughts within that chat. And then Dawn Duelist goes on to say, it's a small world, a very small world. I suppose it is. And then she goes on to say, ooh, the Capone hiding spot does exist at the pier. I'm just saying, laugh out loud.
Well, he came down here and played, and he rested, I guess. And there's tunnels and, hidden booze and catches, because this is also called the wet city. Peoria was a whiskey city, but in the 30s is a wet city because all the bootlegging was the Illinois River. So it was a convenient place to bootleg and transport alcohol. So it's got a lot of names in itself. Peoria is even called the original Sin City, way before Vegas.
I was not aware of this. This is fascinating.
Which will be a title of probably the 5th book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 3rd book's going to be Peoria versus Hollywood.
Which, that's fair. That sounds like I'm interested in that one, by the way. Peoria versus Hollywood. I'm very curious. Curiosity is good. As far as the stories go, what pieces of advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Well, this is kind of a backwards way, but I had a brother or two who were very critical. So if I said something or did something wrong, they were kind of on it. So I think consistency is a huge part of writing, to make sure everything matches up like math. Maybe the hero's behind the bad guy. The next scene, he's suddenly in front of the bad guy. And I was on a local talk show, the Greg and Dan show. And the funny part is my mom reads my books and she goes, Richard, they actually make sense. So that's important to, not have any incongruities, but to make sense and make things logical. So I think that's very, very important for writers.
Absolutely. No question about that. Now, I'd like to share something with you and for the person who may be watching or listening to this. Going to share some images here. This one, the border agent strikes. How did this come about, and what would you say is the elevator pitch?
Well, I've actually read screenwriting books, and I wrote this book like a movie. So they have what they call a log line, where you can describe your whole movie, Die Hard or whatever, in literally 60 seconds. So the hero's on a mission. His buddy gets killed. He goes on vacation on wine. He rescues a drowning kid. He gets befriended by the family. They finally invite him to a super church, and the president of the United States goes there, and he's attempted to kidnap him by an Asian army. So the hero has to defend the president against an Asian army. It's a 400-page thriller, also an Audible. As far as how it started, that's really funny. I wrote some as a kid, a little bit even in grade school and college, and then I became a doctor, and then you kind of write health stuff. And the border agent actually came to me in a dream, literally a Saturday night. And I woke up Sunday morning and I had the name of the character. I had visions of scenes in it. A little old lady with a knitting needle saving the little hero's butt or whatever. I mean, that's the most explicit dream I've ever had. So literally on the way to church, I told my wife to drive and I started taking a piece of paper and I spent a month outlining what I could remember from the dream. And it was really good. And then here's this funny, this is the hard part. I had to create the first half. The second half's a 200-page battle, literally. SWAT teams, National Guards. He rescues a beautiful woman to, in a closet to go on the venture with him. But I had to create the first part. So I sat down, started the first part. Then I realized the dream was fading. So my wife said, just write out the second part and do the first part later. And the first part's a riot. I have a millionaire blonde in a Corvette. I have a tall volleyball player girl. I have a cute redhead waitress. He has a retired National Guard as a mentor. And he's beaten up and battered. And it's most incredible character development of him going from a shattered shell of a person to a leader and a true hero. So I could probably never replicate that again. But that's quite a story. And it's a 5-part story arc. I have 5 books already planned. And the evil colonel, the dragon colonel, might appear in more than the first book. Hint, hint. Aren't you glad you asked?
All right, we'll keep our eyes open. Anything can happen when we're reading that story, or what may come. I would venture to say. Let's see here. Carl Witzman comments on something you mentioned earlier, Richard. He says, yes, if you don't follow consistency, the readers are going to catch on to you with it. And if you have a history mistake somewhere, they'll catch on to that as well. So
that's very well said. And that's kind of my litmus test. It has to make sense. So if I digress or don't digress, when I create a book, in fact, my second Border Agent book's done. It's not gone to publisher yet. I write my log line, I write my outline, I write my character outline, and I literally outline each chapter. Now, the chapters might vary some as you write them, but each chapter have 3, 4, 5 points. And then for a whole story's done, I usually start out with like a Gambit, exciting James Bond start, and then I have an epilogue with a twist. But that makes it very organized. So you pretty much know how it's going to work, and you're not just, they call it seat of the pants writing. So I try to create it, but sometimes the chapters evolve and change from the original plan, which is fine too.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing all that with us about how your process works and how you go about things when it comes to putting together a story. Some people are having some fun in this chat with us, I got to tell you. Dawn says, ooh, a redheaded waitress. That had to reel you in, Carl. Laugh out loud. And Carl responds by laughing out loud himself.
She's a neat character. And the bad part is he's broken. So they even go out on a date and he turns down sex. I mean, he's just a broken guy in the beginning of the book.
Wow.
And she's kind of his consistent glue in the first half. Becomes his buddy, and they might hook up a little bit later. I'm not going to say that, but she's kind of like the pragmatic, consistent glue the first half, the waitress. So she's a great character.
Ooh, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention with this redheaded waitress, folks. Let me tell you.
I even have what my wife calls 2 Nora Roberts chapters in the first half.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm familiar. I'm familiar with that. I'm pretty sure I know where that's going. But I'd like to share something with you and for the person maybe watching or listening to this. You thought that cover was interesting. Goodness gracious. Peoria Knights, Nick Still, if I'm saying that right, private investigator.
Like a German chainsaw.
Okay. This is a wonderful cover, by the way. But how did this story come about, and what's the elevator pitch?
Well, this book's like a mill. There's I met a publisher, and she said, give me your best 6,000 word story for a magazine. So I wrote a Nick Still story, and that's kind of your appetizer. And I mean, like, there's a fight, the first paragraph. And the second one is your meat, and it's a brutal neo-Nazi trying to steal Caterpillar secret formula story, including torture and fighting, and it's very brutal. And then the end is a dessert, and it's a big, huge Halloween party at the Soderstrom Castle, which I named Dr. Carl Svensson, and it's in the background there. And I just did a book signing at that castle in April, and this is just fun. So the millionaire hires Nick to bodyguard a blue sapphire necklace. And there's like a 30s Miss Illinois in it. Nick comes as a Count Dracula in disguise. And I have a 1939 Batman guy in a costume and a 1939 Cat woman in a costume. And it is just an insane fun party.
Oh boy, that's the cat's meow right there. That's just the cat's meow. I got to tell you. And by the way, and I agree with this comment that was just made by our good friend Carl Witzman. He says, this looks like the kind of book that I'd like. Noir stories can be intriguing.
Oh yeah, a lot of whodunit and twists and turns, and but I do actually leave clues. I actually leave clues. Sometimes you read a book and like, there's no way you could have figured out who did it. So you got to throw some clues in that, that people can pick up. And sometimes clues are deceiving and, also, but yep, that's awesome stuff. Thank you for that comment.
Absolutely. But those covers look fantastic. May we ask who put those covers together?
Rich Harvey of Bold Venture Press.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, quote, the editor, but he's got incredible artistic ability. And I guess I should have told Bold Venture Press to be watching this interview. Will this be recorded?
Yes. Well, this is in fact live. And yes, this is going to be on our Facebook feed and our YouTube page and all that stuff. And yes, Richard, I will send you those links here post show. I did send them to you in the email, but I'll send them to you again. No problem.
No, I know. Do you have a cover of my first Nick Steele book?
Well, not here on the set, just the two that I have here, but they are really good looking covers, I gotta say.
Well, the old saying, don't judge a book by my cover. Well, I think that's kind of bull, because if it doesn't look good on a stand, are you really going to pick it up?
But the covers look great, is what I'm saying. They look fantastic.
I know. I guess I meant you have to have a good cover, is what I meant. Yes. I said that kind of backwards. Mm-hmm. I apologize, but
no, it's okay. But yeah, those are absolutely great. And Don Dula says, so far I am enjoying the book.
Oh, thank you, Don. Put on the seatbelt for the last part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't forget to publish a review of the book, whether it's through Amazon or Goodreads or other sites.
Greatly appreciated. Brian K. Morris gave me a fantastic review on Peoria Nights. In fact, his review is actually just worth reading because he kind of leads up and then almost like stops like a cliffhanger. Then he gives a second half review. He did a really good job.
Oh, well done. And Brian K. Morris, shout out to him. Great person, great indie author himself. Feel free to follow him. I believe it's on risingtide.pub online. So follow him. Check out all his books. He's got many flavors for someone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Flavors.
Yeah, well, it's like Baskin Robbins. We all got 31 flavors here, right? We got something for everybody. It's how we do it in here. And Carl goes on to say, before the end, we need to know where Dr. Olson is appearing next so that we can get some of his books. Well, we're going to get to that a little bit later. We don't want to give away too much here in the early goings, but we will be talking about that later. And I am going to pose that question to Dr. Richard A. Olson a little bit later. So stay tuned, Carl. You got to stick around, brother. Trust me. And then Don Dula says, that's the plan. I generally review, all the books I read, especially concerning indie authors.
Greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm. That is very, very true. So once again, we are here with Dr. Richard A. Olson on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And if you have any questions for him, by all means, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're joining us live or on a replay, we thank you specifically so much for being here. My next question goes over to you, Richard. Do you have any special memories from being at conventions or book signing events, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Boy, how long do you want to talk?
Not too long, but you can share a few memories if you have any.
Well, I'm trying to think of the best ones. Obviously, as I might have mentioned in the studio, I'm at the Windy City Pulp Con in Chicago having dinner, and I meet a guy named Pete Poplaski. And he says so about Zorro, and he says, I'm like the normal Zorro fan. I was even the French Zorro in a movie. Do you know where Chillicothe, Illinois is? And I said, yeah, it's right outside Peoria. That's where I live. And they have a museum. Johnson Macaulay created Zorro in 1919. And Zorro just came out with a brand new anthology book yesterday. So, and it's really funny because a year later I met the publisher and editor of Boldventure Press, who does Zorro, and she's the one that said, "Give me the 6,000 word page story." And they do Nick Still, and they do Zorro. So she says, maybe you should send in an outline for a Zorro story. And then she texted me kind of coy, like, the editor. So I knocked out a Zorro story on a Saturday morning called Outfoxed by a Woman, and that is in the new Zorro book by Boldventure Press. It's called Sword Play and Romance. If some of the readers, do you know who Will Murray is, Ryan?
Not offhand, no.
He wrote 40 of the Destroyer books, and then he does like New Tarzan, New Doc Savage, New Shadow.
Wow. I love the Shadow.
He does New Spider. New Spider books too. So I've had some meals with him at the Pulp Con, and he's also created a Squirrel Girl for the Marvel Universe. So it's
awesome.
just a plethora of things. Maybe one last trivia. Phil Jose Farmer lived in Peoria, and I met him at a Peoria convention once. We got along splendidly. His grandfather was a chiropractor, and so was I. And for the readers who don't know who Doc Savage is, he was the Man of Bronze, and Superman's a ripoff. He's the Man of Steel, and they just gave Superman alien powers. In fact, the Fortress of Solitude was in Doc Savage, and they swiped it, and nobody got sued. I still can't believe that they could do that and not get sued in 1938. So his cute story was, when he was a boy, there's a trolley car in Peoria, would go up and down Knoxville Hill, and he'd go to the drugstore and buy a dime Doc Savage and sit on the trolley car for 2 or 3 hours and read the whole book in one sitting. And he also wrote a couple books like The Apocalyptic Life of Doc Savage and books about Doc Savage too. So, but that's just kind of a fun little story to be a 1930s going up and down a trolley car reading a book, a pulp story. It's pretty wild. I thought that was fun. So is that enough stories to wet your whistle?
That definitely has my attention. Yes, and I am a fan of certain pulp characters, specifically the Shadow Nose. Love the Shadow, like the Phantom. I like the Phantom. There's a few pulp characters I like. And by the way, you mentioned Sam Spade. I like Sam Spade because I like noir, and I like film noir, detective fiction. All this stuff is, in a way, it really is up my alley. And I am a big fan of the movie The Maltese Falcon. I love films like Casablanca. Things
Casablanca.
like Hitchcock's movie To Catch a Thief, all that stuff.
That's a great one.
Yeah, that's all up my alley. So yes, you have me intrigued, and I'm looking forward to reading your stories as well as some of the ones you just told me. I did not know the situation between Superman and Doc Savage, where they took some elements from Doc Savage, put it into Superman. I did not know that. It's
online. You can
okay. Well, this is news to me because I don't follow all the online forums. Please forgive me, Richard.
That's fine. Doc Savage was basically raised by a group of scientists, and he trained 2 hours every day to be super strong, super smart. He might do 250 push-ups one-handed.
Really?
He can run 30 miles an hour and catch a bumper of a car. And so they just took this idea, and in the original Superman, he could only jump like 1/8 of a mile. He couldn't fly the first year. So they just basically made Doc Savage an alien and increased his powers, so to speak. And that's fun because my first Nick Still book is called A Man of Still, Stihl. And he's a boxer turned PI. So he had Fist of Steel, Kid Still. And the stories are, how to steal diamonds, who could steal a star, let's steal Halloween, and they're all fun. So the story I'm writing right now is Nick Still Goes Hollywood. And that's one now. And this is fun. His high school girlfriend becomes a famous Hollywood actress and gets framed for murder. So he flies out to Hollywood to save and rescue her butt, so to speak. And that's the one I'm in right now. It's going to be about a 120-page novel. So I'm going to put in characters in it because it's public domain. So I'm going to have Humphrey Bogart and Raymond Chandler at a bar. They're going to be filming the Thin Man movie and bringing him in as an extra with William Powell, Myrna Loy. I'm just going to have a heyday in this book.
You're certainly you're going to have what is known as a field day.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I'm having fun writing that one.
I know I'm having fun just hearing all of this. I mean, I'm here as the host producer of this show, and I'm loving hearing it. And this is why we do the show, is to meet all these creative individuals such as yourself, as whether it's indie authors or not, It's fascinating stuff. And honestly, after hearing all these stories, and I am going to get to your comments here, ladies and gentlemen, here in the chat, because I do want to take a moment and address those. But after hearing some fun facts about certain characters and certain properties and certain things that have taken place inside and outside of Illinois, this is all I got to say about that.
Yes! That's awesome!
I mean, goodness gracious, I'm having the time of my life here, and I got to read more of these books, goodness gracious. But anyway, let's see here. More people have chimed in here in the chat. I want to take a moment to acknowledge those folks for just a minute. Carl Witzman says, Dawn, Richard A. Olson needs to be on Indie Creators Directory. Flip in a link, please, in the chat if you can. And then Carl goes on to say, Indie CD is like the IMDb of writers, and it's just starting up. All right. Well, that's intriguing. I was not aware of this. Neither one of us, I don't think, were. Don Duelis goes on to say, Ryan, do you mind if I send you the link via PM? And you should be on there too. Yes, Don, send me the link via DM. Send it over to me, Facebook, the whole nine. We'll get it out there. Carl Witzman says, so some of the stories you mentioned here, Richard, and some of the things you have planned for the future. He says, I love the titles that you have coming up. That's what he was getting at with that one. And then Carl Witzman goes on to say, my wife and I are crazy about the Thin Man series.
My wife and I are too. I have the box set of all 6.
all 6. Okay, so they couldn't do it with just one. They have to do it with 6. So, okay, fair enough. And then Dawn says, looks like my Doc Olson book collection is going to grow.
Aw, just water it with whiskey a little bit. It'd be fine.
Gosh almighty. And then Dawn says, I wanted to attend the castle signing that you had earlier, but we had a previous engagement, which is why she wasn't there. So
Dawn, are you from Peoria?
I believe she is, or near.
Okay.
I believe she is, but Dawn, let us know for sure. I can't remember if you're exactly in Peoria or you're right outside, or you're in the town next to it, or something like that. I don't remember. Please forgive me if I don't have all the information on hand.
You just messaged me.
Oh, she did. Okay, well then there you go. You have your answer
on the bat phone.
And then Dawn says, yep, if you saw me, you may recognize me at some point. There you go. Oh, Dawn, we love you. Yes, but send me all the information about that, the Indie, what is it called? Indie Creators Directory. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out too.
Please do. Yes, for both Richard A. Olson and myself, please send us the links, the information, so we know what we're dealing with here. Fantastic stuff. You're going to have Bogey and these guys, and they're making the Thin Man. Like, just give me all of it. In the words of Futurama, shut up and take my money. So, it's just, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just, just throwing that out. Goodness gracious. Oh, I'm just throwing that out there. Oh, we're having a good time. Once again, this is, and I quote, with the incredible, not only Bat fan, but extraordinary indie writer himself, Dr. Richard A. Olson, who has multiple skills, whether it's chiropractor or this, that, and the other. Let us know if you have any questions for him. Let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And if you're joining us live or what is known as a replay, we thank you specifically for being with us. And we also thank everyone, and I do mean everyone, who has taken the time to chime in and share their thoughts or questions for Dr. Richard A. Olson in this here chat. Now, when it comes to comic books, how many comic books do you currently own?
Well, that's a happy and a sad story. At one time, I was only missed like 50 Batman comics in the world. I had 20 some boxes, and they got to the point where you didn't want to even touch them or read them. They were, expensive, and then when they grade them, they seal them. So I sold my comic books. I mean, I pretty much sold them all, and a lot of stuff you can read, like DC Archives will have like 4 Batmans and another 4 Batmans. So I basically upgraded what I call readable books, and pulp books are being republished too. So I pretty much sold off my whole collection, unfortunately. So it should have caught me years ago. I could have bragged about them, but but I'm a reader, more than a collector, I guess, is the point. No,
that's fair. But you still have a heck of a Batman setup in your studio/movie room, so it's all good. You made up for it.
Well, guys got to have fun. In fact, here's a saying: a person is never too old to have a happy childhood.
I love that. That is very appropriate and
very
very good. So what I'm trying to say here is, Richard, my hat's off to you for bringing that to our attention. Just out of curiosity, though, what is your favorite Batman movie?
Oh boy, there's a segue. Haha. The '89 Michael Keaton movie, obviously.
Love
Dun
it.
dun dun dun.
I know, right? Man, and it turns 35 this year. We're going to be doing a
All right.
35th anniversary watch along for that in a couple weeks, right here on this very channel, which is And I Quote channel and an episode of movie watch along. Boy, is that going to be batterific.
Yeah,
And
one
all you got
of
to
my
do
favorite.
and all we got to do, Richard, is bring plenty balloons, but then someone's going to take them and we're going to have to say, he stole my balloons.
I like the line.
Oh, yeah.
This town needs an enema.
There's many lines you can quote, many lines we can toss out there. I mean, simply, Richard, gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence? Anyway.
Lawrence, I love it too. I mean, who would have thought Michael Keaton would be the best? He has had such a comedic start, comedy movies and
Mr.
comedy
Mom.
movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Gung Ho, whatever. I mean, just
Mhm.
incredible stuff, and he just nailed it. And unfortunately, he only got 2 shots at it, which is sad. But he just did a phenomenal job.
Mhm. I would definitely agree with you. 89's Batman is a masterpiece to this day. I love it to pieces, and it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So
Wow.
it's in my top 10.
I'd have to probably agree. I didn't know. I usually top 10 movies. I think the Casablanca, The Big Sleep, the older stuff. But yeah, you're right. And the amount of times I've watched it are several dozen. And tell all your friends about me.
Exactly. It's fantastic. I love that movie, and a lot of other individuals out there. I love that movie as well. Don Dulis goes on to say, "Ha ha ha! I just remembered I gave you the indie CD card at the Wizard of Oz event at the Book Rack."
The Book Rack, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Stacy is wonderful for indie writers. There, if she has some events, the table's $10, and then she had an event last month, and the tables were free.
Oh,
You just sit there, and I think I sold a Nick Steele book every 10 minutes. They were like hotcakes. It's like boom, 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 boom. And I was out. So it's a great place, and the Book Rack's a great place.
I'll have to visit it if I'm ever in the state of what is it, Illinois? I have to visit it over there.
Yeah, you can come on and visit Wayne Manor in the country where I live.
It would be nice. It would be nice. And Don Dulis loves the fact that we're quoting Batman '89. She says, "I love that quote." Well, let us know which quote specifically you really enjoy in that film, there, Don. Just out of curiosity. And then Don goes on to say, Michael Keaton was also Johnny Dangerously at one point.
Mary Lou Henner, that is a great, great, great movie. Do you know that movie, Ryan?
Heard of it, seen the poster for it, but I've never seen it.
Every time Johnny has sex, fireworks go off, and they literally have fireworks going off.
Don't they spoof that in the Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen, if I remember correctly?
They do some, but they make fun of the Italian mafia. They make fun of everybody. I mean, it's hysterical. Like you almost cry laughing. It's that funny of a movie.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna have to watch it again. Darn it! Where's the bowl of popcorn when you need one?
I know. I've never seen this movie, Johnny Dangerously. I'll have to sit down and watch it. And I do like Mary Lou Henner from Taxi. So
she's his girlfriend.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. Mary Lou Henner is a beautiful woman. Even when she was on this certain show that'll go unnamed. Not that I'm not talking about Taxi. She was in other stuff as well. But I'm just saying that she made appearances on this one show that I really liked at one point, and I thought, man, Mary Lou Henner ages gracefully, doesn't she?
Yeah, and my wife says I'm full of trivia. It's occasionally useful. She supposedly has some kind of pragmatic photographic memory of like few people in the whole world. She just remember whole scripts of movies, just remember everything. Just a phenomenal thing. I'm sure you guys can Google that too.
Yes. Mary Lou Henner has a very unique skill set. That is for that is for sure. Carl Witzman goes on to say, comedy is so much harder to do than drama. Keaton and Robin Williams proved that. Yes, they did. Both actors.
Well, I would like to dig into that because I have a large dose of comedy in my books. And when people give me reviews, they don't really mention that. Nick Steele has a lawyer buddy, Sam Wilson, so I have lawyer jokes. I have burlesque jokes. Maybe a comment like, she was so hot when she kissed me, my ears sweat. I'll put, corny lines like that. And the border agent might be in the middle of a fight scene, and I'll throw in a one-liner. And once or twice is actually Batman. What would Batman do? Right in the middle of a fight scene, that he does some drastic different actions. So I put instead of a jump scare, I put like jump jokes in my stories. And
All right.
I could tell a joke or 100 right now, but anyway.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I look forward to reading that within your stories. Do not get me wrong. And then Don goes on to say, this one, quote by Tim or maybe Tom Robbins, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. You're right. Spoke about that earlier.
Yeah, I have my own quotes. You know, when you're a doctor for 30 years, you kind of get your own sayings, your own quotes, after a while. And maybe
Mm.
that'd be another book.
If you want to write it, I mean, I don't know. It's up to you. You're the writer. You have experience in this area, whereas I don't. The last thing I wrote was about 2 years ago. I think it was now, almost 2 years ago. I wrote a short story. Maybe one day it'll get published. I don't know. It's three so far. It was meant to be a one-off, and then I left it on a cliffhanger. So now I got to go and write the sequel. I haven't done it yet, but it's 3,000 words. It was the first short story I ever wrote, and it's a Western because I like Westerns.
So do I.
I don't know if it's going to end up anywhere, but you never know, right? Crazier things have happened.
Well, let's have fun. Do you remember Randolph Scott, the actor?
I think I may have heard the name, but I'm not sure if I've seen any of that person's
In
work.
Blazing Saddle, they say, "Do it for Randolph Scott."
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Blazing Saddles, I do remember pieces of it.
He did 100 movies. He was as big as John Wayne in his day.
Really?
But anyway, our son's named Randolph Scott.
Oh.
We're 4 generations of ours in my family, so that might be good for you, Ryan.
Okay. Well,
So
fun facts that I learned every day on this show.
We watch a Western once a week.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, Wild Western Whiskey Wednesday.
Wild West.
It gets through the week.
Well, that's completely fair. And you're halfway through the week with it being hump day / Wednesday. So we'll leave it at that. Just out of curiosity, what is one of your favorite Western movies?
Well, boy, there's so many of those. Wow, that's so many. And I don't know if people are going to know some of these either. My Darling Clementine, I guess I want to go back to, like the original doc, how in 1939. And this is kind of a weird semi-Western, but Tyrone Powers did a Zorro movie in 1939, which is phenomenal. For modern Westerns, Tombstone has to be way up there.
I'm Your Huckleberry.
I'll be your Huckleberry. Yep. That's and there's a trivia thing on that too.
Is there?
He's not actually referring to what do you think he's referring to? I'll be your Huckleberry.
Huckleberry, the character of Huckleberry Finn, but probably not.
Well, I learned this. The Huckleberry wood is very, very strong. And when they made coffins, the handles of the coffins were Huckleberry. So, I mean, I'm going to be the death of you.
Oh, so that's what Doc Holliday was saying. Okay.
Yeah, so the Huckleberry wood was representative of a coffin. So that's what he was really saying. And I didn't know that till 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. I was not aware of this.
Yeah, so it changed everything when I learned that,
Well, it's a heck of a movie with a heck of a performance by all the cast members, especially Doc Holliday, which is Val Kilmer. So
right. And John Wayne, there's so many, what's the Searchers or Rio Lobo or whatever. There's so many John Wayne movies that can count. Randolph Scott had an abundance of movies, but unfortunately he's become, I guess we'll use the word obscure in today's world. There's so many Randolph Scott movies, but I think saying the names might not mean anything. It might be more important if people looked up Randolph Scott. Prime has Caribou Trail on right this minute. And that's got the famous Gabby Hayes with Randolph Scott. And it's basically moving cattle up through Canada.
Oh.
And we watched Zorro last night, and which is also on Prime. The brand new Zorro series on Prime. There you go.
Yes.
And it started out Caribou Trail right away afterward. My kids, I want to see that. I want to see that. And I said, well, we'll save that up for Saturday bowl popcorn, What's your favorite Western, sir?
Oh, man. Now you're turning the tables on the host and producer of this show, which once again, it is, and I quote, with the guest of honor, Dr. Richard A. Olson. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And if you watch this live or on the replay, we thank you so much for being with us. If you have any questions for Dr. Richard A. Olson specifically, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. As far as my favorite Western, I mean, my gosh, there's so many, but one of them that stands out for me that I really like, and this is a bit of an unknown Western. It's a bit of an, what do you call it? Like a underrated gem, I would say. Came out back in 2015. I think it was 2016, somewhere around there. Kiefer and Donald Sutherland, father and son, are in a movie together, and it's called Forsaken. Now, it takes place in the Wild
Ooh.
West. Now, Kiefer Sutherland was a war hero, but, he returns home from the war. He's grizzled. He's tired. He's got so much regret. He's got guilt, right? He's carrying around this guilt, and he comes home to help his dad and kind of, just go back to a more stable life, because he's tired of being a gunfighter, a gunslinger. He wants to leave that life behind, but as in some Westerns, the town that he returns to isn't what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. So when he comes back, people are being intimidated into selling their land to this greedy land person who's played by Brian Cox. And Michael Wincott is his enforcer, if you will. And he confronts Kiefer Sutherland and says, hey, what are we going to do about this? Because, we want your dad to sell his land. He won't sell it to us. We have a bit of a problem. So how do we fix it? So Kiefer Sutherland is trying to wrestle with these demons of his, but now his past is coming back to, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
He's being forced back into the game of being a gunslinger. So if you've never seen the movie Forsaken, starring Kiefer and Donald Sutherland, which is the first time that father and son have ever been featured in a film together, look up this movie. It's really, really good. The person who directed it is the same person who directed and was one of the co-showrunners of the hit series 24. So
I've seen it. It is excellent. Like you said, it's a gem, but it's not well known, unfortunately. But that's a great one.
It's actually got a really good performance from Demi Moore. Demi Moore she's done dramatic acting. Right. She's done a mixture of different things, right? But Demi Moore is so good in this movie. I'm thinking, where is this Demi Moore been? I want to see more dramatic performances from you.
Exactly. Not just a hot body.
Well, no, she is beautiful, but don't get me wrong. But yeah, she gives a very well done dramatic performance. So if you've never seen Forsaken, please add it to your list. Find it on physical media, stream it on a streaming service, wherever it may be, respectively. But let's see here. More people are chiming in the chat. Dawn Dula says, and I learned something new today. Huckleberry. Yeah, I didn't know about that either. Carl Witzman says, Randolph Scott was the guy that got your grandma hot.
Maybe that's how those grandkids came out,
Goodness gracious.
He's a very good looking man. Very good. And incredibly wealthy. He was worth $200 million when he died in the 80s. Every movie went into buying oil and property. Movies were just a job to, make money for investments.
That was a lot of money back, for sure. And then he goes on to say he was quite the heroic type. Randolph Scott was, according to Carl Witzman.
He kind of underacted, more stoic and majestic. He's always sat perfectly in the saddle. His weapons were always perfect, and he could be quite the badass too. But he's a very iconic type character, not as flamboyant as John Wayne.
Yeah. There you go. That's a fair point to make.
And, go, Pilgrim.
Oh, Westerns. I love Westerns. There's a lot of Clint Eastwood movies I like, whether it's Unforgiven, whether it's Pale Rider, The Outlaw Josie Wales,
High Plains Drifter.
There's High. I mean, I'm not really a fan of High Plains Drifter, but I understand it has its fandom. But I do like the Dollars trilogy, specifically for a few dollars more. I think that's a really good Western. In my opinion.
So, oh, wait.
Exactly. Well, that's Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but we know where you're going with that with Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone, specifically. We do want to let you know. Yeah, it's really good music for sure. It's one of the best scores I've heard in a trilogy.
My ringtone one year.
It was?
Yeah, I alternate ringtones. Can't always be Batman.
It can't always be Batman.
Mission Impossible, whatever. You got to alternate once in a while.
What's your ringtone in 2024?
It's the classic 60s one for the moment. Batman.
The original there, okay, from 66, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they say Batman 11 times. That's the song.
Gee willikers. Okay. Well, I do want to let you know something here, Richard, and I want to know the person who may be watching and listening to this know that this episode of And I Quote is indeed powered by Poddex. Now, Poddex are what is known as the hottest new tool, specifically for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcasts. All you got to do is simply shuffle up, ask a question, and you let the content roll. You can get yours today at poddex.com. Make sure you use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10, Ryan10 for 10% off your order. Visit them online. Feel free to download the app. You'll have some questions on your phone and some other pieces of the app as well. So with that being said, Poddex wants to know, what is one thing you wish you'd spent more time doing when you were younger, Richard?
Wow, I had honestly an incredible childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bookworm and an athlete, so I kind of did it all. One thing I could have done? Well, I was almost close to becoming a competitive diver, and then I became a water skier. So I guess that's one avenue I never explored. I did some gymnastics and stuff too, but we boated on the Mississippi, and my dad had a band. I played his band. We just had an amazing childhood. Like I said, as a bookworm and a jock, so we had just a great childhood. So I guess I'm not lacking. So that's good news, right?
Yes, it most certainly is. All right, I got you. I got you. Well, thank you for answering that question. Do really appreciate it. So, what's the main thing you would say that's on your bucket list at this time?
Well, right now it's trying to get the next Nick Steele book finished. I'm trying to do one a year and try to do Border Agent one a year and then several short stories. So I'm being pretty tunnel vision there. I'm also expanding into YA young adult stories. My son created a story, Mystery in the Trees, and he wrote the whole story outline. I actually wrote the words, but it's a phenomenal 50-page story, and so I want to get that out. So then, of course, my daughter's like, "Well, I want to write a story too." So, and the Scott Lund brothers family is Zach and Zoe, so that's going to be kind of my kids' adventure stories, and they're actually pretty good. I don't know if you want to hear about the segue or not, but to make up a joke, the Scotland's niece and sister-in-law go to Mexico with a dog. It's called Don't Play in the Sand, and the dog gets caught in quicksand. It's a collie. So I wrote a song, a joke. What do you call four Mexicans in quicksand? Cuatro Cinco.
Oh boy.
I have better ones, but you can't always start out with your best one. But so I'm trying to get the young adult adventures going because that's going to be a whole different genre of readers and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, well, congratulations. That's great. Congratulations to you and your family for in the process of putting that together. That's great, man.
Yeah, my son's story is wild. We'll call this a tease. So
sure, go ahead.
Scott's brother Steve is a forest ranger, and the wife's an exotic animal veterinarian, like tigers, koala bears, whatever. So they go vacation, Yosemite Park. The two kids go to the bathroom. They find a dead body. They tell the parents, of course, the body's gone. And they go back again. They find an FBI badge, and the governor's kids were kidnapped. So Zach and Zoe rescue the governor's kids, and we're talking log chases and flooded rivers and bears and pepper spray, and it's a pretty wild 50-page story.
And I thought adventure had a name of Indiana Jones, but this man is an adventure within itself.
Yeah, I made it so my son said wow, and he actually said that. He read the story, he goes, "Wow, Dad." That's my mission.
Well, congratulations. Look forward to when those books come out, and please let us know when those things are available to the general public so we can read them.
Thank you. And we're going to work on Audible and digital and all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, digital. Okay, so ebook then.
Well, I'm writing the kids' stories in like 15-minute segments, so you could like listen to a chapter a day.
Oh, well, that's fair. Nothing wrong with that either. People listen to books via audiobook all the time.
Yeah, so it's like they're like little 10-chapter stories.
Oh, well, nothing wrong with that either. I mean, hey, whatever format works, but I wish you and your family the best of luck with all of that. That sounds wonderful. It really does. Keeping the writer, the writership within the family blood. So that's very good.
Yeah, thank you. Keep the next generation going. Legacy.
Yeah. Yes. Legacy. Very, very important. Poddex is curious, though, going back here just a little bit, if you could instill one piece of advice within a baby's mind, what advice would you give it?
A baby's mind?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I guess basically just be a sponge. Just absorb everything you can. You don't have to use everything, but just be a sponge. Don't be closed-minded. And I wrote kind of a little joke. The best lawyer in the world is a 3-year-old.
Okay. All right. I like that. I know where that's going. That's a good one.
Yeah, be a sponge. Learn.
Be a sponge. Learn as much as you can. All right. I respect that, my good man. So what is the one thing you'll be really disappointed if you never get to experience it.
Boy, I guess if I was to be honest, going to heaven. That would be a letdown. Never experienced. Okay, if none of my books, honestly, never make movies. I'm hoping that either character could become in movies, and that's actually part of the original plan.
Oh, you eventually you do want to have these books adapted into film?
I have a producer looking at Nick's deal right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
I don't think I'll say a name, but he's actually reading Peoria Nights right now.
Okay, all right.
And
Well,
I think, and I write Scotland to be a movie franchise, like London Has Fallen, or some big epic adventure type movie series. So I'm hoping Scotland will be a movie series.
okay. Well, I hope the odds are ever in your favor. And if you're ever looking for actors to participate in these things, should they get the green light, of course, and be adapted and come to fruition, I volunteer as tribute to act in one of those films.
All right, we'll have
I
to.
I do have a theater. I do have a college and high school theater background, so I've done acting. I've done one act plays. I've done full act plays. I was in the Crucible back in the day. In high school, I was Deputy Governor Danforth at one point, which is written by Arthur Miller, by the way. That's the Crucible. But yeah, and acting is fun because you get to play someone who is not yourself. So I'm all for it. So not to put anyone on a pedestal and not to toot my own horn, but if you're looking for actors, let me know and we can talk.
You could be his best friend, Sam Wilson, the lawyer.
The lawyer. I played a police captain once. I can play a lawyer, no problem.
And he wears glasses too.
He does.
And stuff. So I have lawyer jokes too.
Okay. Because to be honest with you, it's hard for me to see without these on. So
you know how you get a lawyer out of a tree?
How do you get a lawyer out of a tree?
You cut the rope.
Yes. That is how you do it. Just cut the rope and get him out of the tree. Sorry. I like you, man. I'm liking this guy. Honestly, this is brilliant. So my next question goes to you, Richard. Where do you go specifically when you need to blow off some steam?
Well, this room alone is perfect. I got a huge movie projection theater. I live in the country by 2 lakes, so my backyard is like a temple. I just sit out back, fire pit, look at nature. Honestly, I called my brother at midnight Saturdays in Oregon, and I drank 1 or 2 drinks and smoked a cigar and talked to him for 2 hours from 12 to 2. Just sitting in my backyard in the dark.
All right. So found yourself some serenity there.
We need serenity. We need our fortress. We need our timeout.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's, and a lot of people, maybe this is something too, you need to give yourself some structure, timeout. Like Thursday night's my night.
Mm-hmm.
My wife knows that. The kids, 10, it could be 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's my night.
Oh, okay.
Read, write. Well, I don't write at night. But watch a movie, read a book, whatever. So give yourself time out, guys. Even if it's an hour with your spouse at 9 or 10 or something, just try to have some timeouts.
Very true. Please keep everyone sane. Mental health is very important. Please take care of yourself and reach out to resources that are available to you out there. So Carl Witzman goes on to say, good luck. I hope good things for you, Richard.
Thank you, Carl.
Such a nice man is Carl Witzman. He also goes on to say, Carl Witzman says, a bourbon and cigar by a lake sounds great.
Well, I do accept visitors.
If you want to give him a holler there, Carl, just send him a DM on Facebook. I'm sure Carl Witzman and Dr. Richard A. Olson will have some good conversations together. You never know.
There's actually a Central Illinois Cigar Society.
Is there?
And we're meeting at the Soderstrom Castle this Thursday at 5:30. I think you donate $25 to charity, and he's going to have free drinks and food buffet and massage and at the castle. So it's a wonderful event.
Wow, that sounds enticing. Too bad I don't live close to Illinois for these things.
Rats.
I know. I'm a million miles away. I'm on the other side of the East Coast in Maryland. So what are you going to do? Hopefully one of these days I can get out there to Illinois because there's so many people we know out there. By the way, Dawn Dulis goes on to make a comment about certain things. She says, I don't specifically drink or smoke, but sitting around the lake and just talking sounds absolutely divine.
We can make you an iced tea like my hero did when he was a boxer.
Nothing wrong with iced tea. I think that's a good drink, isn't it? I mean, it still
Oh, yeah.
works. I don't know. I guess it depends on who you ask. It's different. Everybody's going about it. Well, I do want to take this opportunity, if you don't mind, to say thank you to Dr. Richard A. Olson for being our guest on this very educational, very insightful, and fascinating episode of And I Quote. Dr. Richard A. Olson, thank you for being here once again. This was great, and I learned a lot from you in a very short period of time. And this is why we keep doing these shows, is to meet great individuals every single week and hear what they're passionate about and do our best to support them in any way, shape, or form that we can. So, Dr. Richard A. Olson, if someone wants to know more about you or purchase copies of your books, where can they follow you specifically on social media?
Well, on Facebook, it's Dr. Richard A. Olson, author. Instagram, I think it's just Dr. Richard A. Olson. I just started a next channel. I think it's Olson Doctor, our next channel. Amazon's basically my name, Dr. Richard A. Olson. And I'm trying to keep things simple. So my website's drrichardaolson.com with no spaces. And if that doesn't work, send a smoke signal. We'll see what we can figure out.
Smoke signal. Goodness gracious. Carl Witzman goes on to say, good show. And Don Dulles says, great show. Have a great afternoon, gentlemen. I will probably have Peoria nights done very soon.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
So there you go. There's that. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Carl. And thank you, Dr. Richard A. Olson, for being with us. I'm going to talk to you here in just a moment. My name is Ryan of And I Quote channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Feel free to follow us across all forms of social media, specifically at And I Quote channel. We got lots of things coming your way very soon. We are very close to hitting 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we'll go through a great big live stream celebration that's going to include special guests, some returning favorites, such as Dr. Richard A. Olson is more than welcome to come back and share more about the fun facts and the craziness that ensues in the great state of Illinois, and maybe some bat facts. I don't know. Maybe some more stuff will come our way. Maybe we'll talk more about Westerns. I don't know. He likes Westerns. I like Westerns specifically, but we're going to have special giveaways that you, our incredible viewers/subscribers, going to be eligible to win. We have a support the show / buy me a coffee link in the description and all our social media bios. So feel free to support the show in any way, shape, or form that you can. We greatly appreciate all the support that you've given us over the years. We have merch, we have shirts, we have hoodies, we have stickers, we have coffee mugs, we have stationery, we have posters, poster boards, all kinds of things in our Redbubble shop. So check out those links down below or in our social media bios. Next stop on the Comic-Con tour is going to be in late July 26th through the 28th. We're going to be at Shore Leave 44, the sci-fi convention that's going to be held in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope to see you there. Maybe we'll bump into Dr. Richard A. Olson if he feels the need to make a trek over to the great state of Pennsylvania. But also, if you're looking for sci-fi and robots, we got the Robot Galaxy series written by our good friend Adina Mignona of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. You can find copies of those books for all ages on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and you can buy directly from the author herself at adinamignona.com. Or if you're looking for more hard sci-fi meets AI intrigue, check out Lunar Logic. Once again, that's written by our good friend Adina Mignona of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. You can find copies on Amazon, Kobo, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble. You can buy directly from the author, which we would all greatly appreciate. And we got lots more events coming your way very soon. The Nerdy Cantina is on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we discuss all things Star Wars, including that brand new series that's going to be dropping, The Acolytes. Movie watch-alongs are on the weekends. Plenty of movies are celebrating anniversaries this year, including Tim Burton's Batman is turning 35. That'll be held towards the end of the month of June 2024. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified of when our videos go up or they go live. And remember, life is better when supporting indie creators of all shapes and sizes. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Choose high-flying action. Choose death-defying escapes. Choose spine-tingling thrills. Choose nail-biting intrigue. Now's your chance to choose the adventure. The Captain Hawkland Adventures. Available on Amazon.com.
In the summer of 1953, private investigator Will Lucky Marks was working as the in-house private eye for Arcane Pacific Pictures. Trapped inside the studio with the killer, Lucky must find the killer before time runs out. Lot 28. Own it today. Available iTunes and Amazon.com.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.